your working hours are 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. Edit, first and foremost, thank you for the upvotes and awards. Greatly appreciated. I love all the discussions below. There is some food for thought here. To clarify a few things, this took place in Europe. I was a salaried employee, 40 hours a week. I left that job about 10 months after the event took place. I didn't get into trouble and nobody tried to fire me. My probation period was over and we have employment laws regarding constructive dismissal, so I knew their hands were tied. About 4 years back, I started a new banking job. All was well, just that the management was pretty strict with timekeeping, which was weird as we were back office. My experience was in a similar field at another bank, and we had flexible schedules and received time in lieu. But rules are rules, so I followed them. I learned my tasks and got to know the wider team. Anyway, about 4 months in, I started to realize my senior manager didn't like me. I'm pretty assertive as a person, and I do know how to stand up for myself. He hated it. I would speak up during the meetings, ask questions, give suggestions, and so on, while the team would stay quiet. The week everything went south, I was working overtime, which was, obviously, unpaid. On Thursday, I did nearly 2 hours of overtime. On Friday, I thought I'll leave a few minutes early as I was done for the week. My manager was off. I left 10 minutes early. On Monday, I come to work, and I got called into a meeting straight away. There were 3 of us in the room, myself, my manager, and my senior manager. Our conversation went as follows. My manager, I heard you left work early on Friday. Me, I did. I left 10 minutes early. Did you ask for permission to leave early? Me, it was 10 minutes. You know I did about 4 hours of overtime last week. Why are we having this conversation? Senior manager, because you left early without asking for permission. As a senior, you should be setting an example for the rest of the team. Me, is this a joke? Your working hours are 9 a.m. to 6 p.m., not 9 a.m. to 5:50 p.m. You shouldn't leave early without asking for your manager or my permission first. Is that clear? Me, got it. It's perfectly clear. I listened and started coming into the office at 9 a.m. and leaving at 6 p.m. on the dot. At first, they didn't realize what was happening, but the week after the meeting was the last week of the month. And let's say the last week of the month was intense. Especially the final day. The reports had to be completed, signed off, and submitted before the month's end. We covered multiple jurisdictions and would deal with Southeast Asia in the morning and the Americas in the evening. Our team was expected to work overtime due to this. Here comes Friday, the last day of the month. Showtime. I'm at my desk at 9 a.m. sharp. Most of the team have already been at the office for at least an hour. I, of course, have a cup of coffee from the cafeteria because I was a bit early. My manager looks at me and raises his eyebrow, but he doesn't say anything. Work. Break time, we had 2 20-minute paid breaks and 1 hour unpaid lunch. I'm the only person to go on my break. Lunchtime. Everyone was eating at their desks, while I go to meet my friends for lunch. On the second break, I once again leave my workplace and go for a short stroll around. Back to work. About 5:45 p.m., I get a call from one of the senior managers in the US. She needs the report amended. There were 4 of us on that call. I'm doing the amendments as we speak and closely monitoring the time. I see it's 2 minutes to 6 p.m. 1 minute. 6 p.m. SM2, rambling about the report. Me, apologies, but I have to stop you right here. SM2, yes. Me, it's 6 p.m. here. My day's over. SM2, huh? Me, as per my management, my working hours are 9 a.m. to 6 p.m., so I must leave now. Have a great weekend, and we'll catch up on Monday. I logged off, got my coat, wished everyone a great weekend, and left. It was 6:04 p.m. Both my manager and my senior manager were dumbfounded by what has happened, looking pale, and stare at me in disbelief. It was a glorious sight. I wanted to apologize to my senior manager that I wasn't able to leave at 6 p.m. on the dot, but I thought that would have been way too passive-aggressive, so I just left. I relaxed the rule a bit after a few months. Yet, I never did more than 30 minutes of overtime. Ironically, once my stakeholders understood that I will not be available for 10+ hours, they started collaborating earlier in the month. I would have most of my reports done and submitted by the last day of the month. Now to the comments. This a malicious compliance I can get behind. You are entitled to take your breaks, and if they aren't going to pay overtime you shouldn't have to work it. Management knows this, that's why all they could do is raise their eyebrows. OP replied, "Yep. That's why he was quiet. I think that morning he started realizing what am I up to lol. That dawning moment of shit. This is a mess of my own making is very satisfying, isn't it? Then they have to decide whether their pride will allow them to eat crow for the sake of the business, or if they'd rather let their pride win out. Are you sure as worker speak for this is going to bite you in the ass? You know, I always like following up clearly idiot requests with an email per our conversation today, insert summary. Please confirm. This is delicious malicious compliance." OP replied, "Didn't even need to confirm it. I just read through my contract when I got home. I even highlighted it for times I had to refer back to it. It was a stressful yet satisfying experience. I'll just never understand why anybody would do unpaid overtime. The fact that you doing this made your collaborations better is everything to me. My current work is talking about expanding hours and doing all sorts of things, and I'm over here like, since when our boundary is a bad thing, you let people know what the rules will consistently be and they will adjust accordingly. I just started a job that is full-time remote. We actually get reprimanded if we answer calls and emails outside of our hours or on weekends. It's super refreshing from management. Some places are starting to figure out that rested/reset employees are better workers. I have had an almost identical thing. Where I used to work, I would almost always start 10 to 15 minutes early and stay 10 to 20 minutes late, and would often be in the office an hour early to get everything done if I needed to leave bang on 5 p.m. I was salaried, so no overtime. One day I was half an hour late. No drama or excuses, I literally overslept and was running late. My fault entirely. I'd been at my desk for a few minutes when my boss walked past me and said loudly so everyone could hear, Rico Dread, you're here. So nice of you to join us, which you could call banter or just having a laugh, I suppose. Although it didn't feel like it to me. I was annoyed but let it go. A little while later I got a shitty, passive-aggressive email from him saying that I needed to make sure that I made the time up. Which I was going to do anyway. And to remind me that my hours were 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. and they didn't do flex time, so not to be late in future. Right. Okay, if that's the way you want it, now it's stucking on. From that day forward I didn't work a minute early or late and took my full lunch break to the second. I would start my computer up at 8:30 exactly and shut down my computer at 5 p.m. exactly and be in my car by 5:01. A few times over the next few months, someone would try to talk to me about work before I had started or while I was at lunch, and I'd say sorry, I've not started work yet, and we don't do flex time here, and go back to my phone. Pretty soon my boss noticed and he asked me what I was playing at, and I said that I was doing exactly what he said I had to do, working 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. as there was no flex time. He said that I was being pedantic and I was obliged to be flexible, and that due to the nature of the job my working hours were changeable depending on what the workload was at the time. I asked him to show me where it actually said that in my contract of employment. Surprisingly, he couldn't. Similar to that, my company expects me to do 8 hours of work 8 in any given day, since part of my job is being a consultant for client. That sounded reasonable enough to me. So, I'd show up at 9 a.m., take no breaks except a 10-minute lunch break, and then I'd leave at 5:10. I got scolded for leaving before 6 p.m., despite others leaving before 6 p.m. So, I started taking breaks. 5 to 10-minute breaks throughout the day. I also started taking 1-hour lunches. So now I would be in the office from 9 to 6, but instead of 8 hours of work I was doing 7.5 hours of work. And yet in their eyes I was working more. It's pathetic.